My son stopped visiting me. Just like that. No argument, no big scene, just distance. Quiet as dust settling after a storm. I used to hear his car every Sunday morning, engine humming down the street like clockwork. Then one week he didn't show. At first I thought maybe he was tired. Folks get busy, right? But then a second Sunday passed, and a third, and my phone sat on that kitchen counter like a dead thing. No calls, no texts, just silence loud enough to rattle my bones. Now listen, baby. When you raise somebody from the day they take their first breath, you feel their absence like an empty seat at your own table. I'd make 2 cups of coffee every morning, mine with cream, his black with sugar, and pour the second one out when it got cold. Couldn't stand seeing it there. I'd call sometimes. He'd answer short, say, "I'll stop by soon, Ma," then hang up before I could ask when. Each time the call ended, the room felt smaller. I started leaving the TV on just for company. That steady hum of strangers talking filling the air, where laughter used to be. One Tuesday, I baked his favorite peach cobbler, thinking maybe the smell would bring him. You know how mamas do. Still hoping food can fix what words can't. The crust browned perfect, the sugar bubbling golden at the edges. But no knock came. The cobbler cooled. I wrapped it in foil and sat there, staring at the clock till midnight. 3 days later, I decided I couldn't wait anymore. I told myself, "Evelyn, you've given that boy enough space. It's time to see what's going on." I grabbed my purse, my soft blue cardigan, and those old car keys with the chipped cross keychain Harold gave me before he passed. Standing by the door, I hesitated. The hallway mirror caught me in its glare. Wrinkles deeper than last week, eyes red from not sleeping. I pressed my palm flat against my chest. My heart felt jumpy, like it wanted to run ahead of me. You understand what I'm saying? There's a kind of quiet that don't mean peace. It means warning. I felt that kind of quiet wrapping around my house that morning. I whispered, "Lord, guide my steps," locked the door, and walked down the porch steps slow. The air smelled like rain about to start. My knees complained, but my will didn't. I didn't know it yet, but that drive to my son's house, that simple decision, was about to change everything. Tell me, what would you have done? Waited another week or gone looking like I did? The drive to Marcus's house wasn't far. 15, maybe 20 minutes. But Lord, it felt longer than any shift I ever worked at that hospital. I kept both hands on the wheel, eyes steady, but my chest tight the whole way. Every light turned red like the world itself was saying, "Turn around, Evelyn." But I couldn't. My mama heart had already decided. You ever drive somewhere hoping you're wrong? That's what I was doing. The radio was playing one of those old gospel songs I love. "His eye is on the sparrow." I hummed a little, tried to calm myself. The song said not to worry. But baby, when it's your child, you can't help it. I turned into his street. Those fancy new houses lined up all neat like teeth. I remember when he first moved there. He'd said, "Ma, we made it." I brought fried chicken that night, sat right on their new couch, feeling proud. But that pride had thinned out since then. That day, even the air felt different, heavy, closed off. When I parked across the street, I noticed the grass in his yard had grown tall. Marcus always kept his lawn trimmed, edges sharp, like he took pride in it. That told me something was off. I sat there for a minute, engine running, fingers drumming on the steering wheel. My reflection in the mirror looked older than I felt. I whispered, "Be strong, Evelyn. You just go say hi." I stepped out slow, adjusting my cardigan. The heat wrapped around me thick, and my knees complained the whole walk up that driveway. I knocked on the door twice. No sound. Knocked again, harder. Still quiet. Just when I was about to turn back, I heard footsteps. The door opened, and there she was, Tasha, my daughter-in-law. Her face looked surprised, but not the good kind. "Oh, hi, Evelyn," she said, keeping her hand on the doorframe. "Marcus isn't here right now." I smiled polite. "That's all right, baby. I'll wait." She frowned a little. "He's busy today. Maybe you should call next time." Her words stung. "I did call," I said softly. Didn't get much back. She sighed and leaned against the door. He's been under a lot of stress. He just needs some space. There it was again. That word. Space. Folks use it like it's kindness, but it really means distance. I looked past her shoulder and caught sight of the hallway. Toys on the floor. A little pink jacket tossed on a chair. My granddaughter's jacket. "How's Kayla?" I asked. Tasha's smile froze. "She's fine. She's napping." I nodded. "Mm-hmm. Well, tell her Grandma loves her." Her hand tightened on the door. "Will do," she said, and before I could say more, she closed it. Not slammed, just firm enough to make sure I knew it wasn't opening again. I stood there for a second, staring at the wood grain. The porch smelled faintly like lemon cleaner and something sweet baking inside. I used to think that smell meant home. Now it just made my eyes burn. Walking back to my car, I whispered, "Lord, give me patience." I sat behind the wheel, looked at that front door one more time, and thought, maybe she's just having a bad day. But deep down, I knew. You understand what I'm saying? When something's wrong between you and your child, you can feel it in your bones. As I pulled away, the sun hit my windshield, blinding me for a moment. And just like that, a thought came. If she's lying about him being home, what else are they hiding from me? That question stayed in my head for days. And by the time I found out the answer, baby, I wished I'd never asked. 3 days passed. I tried to keep busy, swept the porch, watered my half-dead fern, even reorganized my kitchen cabinets. But nothing filled that quiet space where my son's voice should have been. You ever feel like your house itself is listening for someone who stopped coming? That's how it was. Every creak in the floor made me look toward the door, like maybe he'd finally shown up. That Saturday was my 63rd birthday. I woke up early, smiling without meaning to, thinking, this is the day. I just knew he'd call. I even put on my softest dress, blue with little white flowers. Marcus always said I looked nice in blue. I brewed coffee, set out 2 cups out of habit, then sat at the table, waiting for that familiar ringtone. Nothing. I checked my phone again. No call, no text. I told myself maybe he was planning a surprise. You know how hope fools you when your heart wants to believe? I even made a small pot of stew just in case they showed up unannounced. The smell filled the kitchen, warm and rich with onions and thyme, but by afternoon it started to make me sick, because no one came to eat it. Around 2 o'clock, I gave in and called him. The line rang 4 times before someone answered, but it wasn't Marcus. It was Tasha. "Hello?" she said, sounding annoyed. "Hey, baby," I said gently. "It's your mother-in-law. Is Marcus around?" She paused a beat. "He's resting." "Resting?" I asked, glancing at the clock. "At 2 in the afternoon? He's been working a lot," she said flatly. "He'll call you later, okay?" I tried to keep my tone soft. "All right. Tell him his mama said happy birthday to herself." She didn't laugh, just said, "Sure thing," and hung up. I sat there holding that silent phone like it was still alive. The tick of the wall clock got louder and louder till I had to turn on the TV just to drown it out. I watched 2 whole episodes of Family Feud and still nothing. By nightfall, the stew had gone cold, and so had my mood. Now listen, a mother can forgive almost anything, but being forgotten on your birthday, that hits different. It's not just missing the call, it's what it says underneath. You don't matter the way you used to. By midnight, I blew out the candle I'd lit just for myself and whispered, "Happy birthday, Evelyn." The words tasted bitter. The next morning, my phone buzzed. My heart jumped, thinking it was him, but it was my neighbor, Miss Darlene, texting about church bake sales. Not a word from my own child. "You still with me, baby?" Because this is where things start shifting. I went to church that Sunday trying to shake the sadness off me. The choir sang loud, the pastor preached about faith through silence, and I held my head high. But right when I thought I could breathe again, one small conversation after service changed everything. Miss Carroll from the congregation came up, smiling. "Evelyn, I saw your Marcus at his new place last week. That housewarming looked nice." My heart stopped mid-beat. Housewarming? I asked, voice barely a whisper. Mm-hmm, that new house on Maple. Whole block was there. I smiled tight, but my hands went cold. Oh, that's wonderful, I said, pretending to be happy. But baby, inside I felt like someone had knocked the wind clean out of me. I walked to my car, slow and quiet, that one word echoing in my head, new house. How did my son move into a whole new home and never tell his mama? I drove straight to that address on Maple the next morning. Don't ask me how I found it. Mamas have a way of knowing what they're not supposed to know. The GPS took me down this quiet street with shiny new mailboxes and kids riding scooters. It was the kind of place Marcus used to talk about when he was little. One day, Ma, he'd say, I'll buy you a house with a porch swing. I just never thought he'd buy one without room for me. When I pulled up, I saw his car right away. Same silver sedan, parked neat in the driveway. The house was bigger than I expected. White siding, 2 floors, little garden up front with flowers already wilting. I cut the engine and sat there watching the curtains. For a second, I thought I saw movement. Then, nothing. Now listen. I wasn't planning to make a scene. I just wanted to see him, to hug my grandbaby, maybe sit for a cup of coffee. But my heart was beating so hard it felt like a warning. I finally stepped out, straightened my cardigan, and walked up the driveway. My shoes crunched on the gravel like the whole world was listening. I knocked once. No answer. Knocked again, louder. A few seconds later, the door cracked open, and there she was. Tasha. Same polite smile. Same cold eyes. Oh, she said. Hi, Evelyn. What are you doing here? I smiled soft. Just thought I'd stop by. I heard y'all moved. Wanted to see the new place. She blinked, then shifted her weight like she was blocking the doorway. Marcus isn't home. That's fine, I said. I'll wait. She sighed, her fingers tightening on the door. It's not a good time. We're still settling in. Through that small crack, I saw boxes half opened, toys scattered on the floor. The air smelled faintly of paint and lemon cleaner. I said, I can see y'all been busy. I'm proud of him. She forced a little smile. Yeah, we've been really busy. Something in her voice didn't sit right. It had that tone people use when they're hiding something, but want you gone. Before I could ask more, she said, Evelyn, please, he'll call you, all right? I nodded slowly, trying to hold my face together. All right, baby. Tell him his mama stopped by. Then she did it again. Closed that door soft but firm, like punctuation on a sentence I didn't get to finish. I stood there on that porch, staring at the wood, my hands trembling. The house smelled too new, too foreign. It didn't feel like Marcus's home. It felt like Tasha's. When I got back to my car, I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror. My eyes looked older, sadder. I whispered, Lord, give me strength to understand. You understand what I'm saying? That was the moment I felt my place in his life shifting, from mama to outsider. But I didn't cry. Not yet. I told myself maybe things would settle. Maybe once they got comfortable, he'd come around again. I drove home with that lie tucked in my heart like a prayer. And baby, I held on to that lie for 2 more weeks, right up until the day he knocked on my door, smiling, holding paperwork that would change everything. It was a Thursday morning when he finally showed up. I was on the porch, shelling peas into a bowl, trying to keep my hands busy so my mind wouldn't wander. When I saw that silver sedan pull up, my heart nearly leapt out my chest. I wiped my hands on my apron and whispered, Thank you, Lord, he came. Marcus got out holding a folder, smiling a little too wide. Hey, Ma, he said like we'd just talked yesterday. You look good. I smiled back, though I could feel the ache behind it. You too, baby. I thought you forgot where I lived. He chuckled, looking everywhere but at me. Nah, I just been busy. Work's been crazy. You know how it is. Mm-hmm, I said, watching him shift his weight. You hungry? I got cornbread inside. He waved it off. No, I can't stay long. I actually came to ask a favor. The way he said it made my stomach twist. What kind of favor? He opened that folder and slid out a few sheets. It's just paperwork. We're trying to refinance the new house. They need an extra signer to get the rate down. I frowned. Refinance? Marcus, that's big business. Ma, he said quick, gentle, like he was talking to a patient. It's just a signature. You won't owe a dime. It's all handled. You remember how you co-signed my car loan years ago? Same thing. I stared at those papers, my name already typed neat at the top. The words blurred a little, small print swimming like it was hiding something. You sure this won't mess with my house? I asked. He smiled, reaching for my hand. I promise, Ma. You taught me better than to take advantage of you. That line right there, those words, felt like honey poured over poison. I wanted to believe him so bad. You ever want something to be true so much you stop listening to your own good sense? That was me, that morning. So I signed, right there on my own porch. The pen shook in my hand, but I told myself it was just nerves. Marcus folded the papers up fast, tucked them back in the folder, and hugged me quick. Too quick. Thanks, Ma. You're the best. Then he was gone, just like that. I stood there a long time after his car disappeared, wind picking at my apron. My chest felt heavy, uneasy. The way he'd smiled, it wasn't joy. It was relief. That night, I made myself some tea and couldn't drink it. My hand kept trembling. Something deep in me said, "You just gave away more than your signature." A week later, a letter came in the mail. Thick envelope, fancy seal. I opened it at the kitchen table, and my eyes went straight to the words, "Mortgage payment due," under my name. I dropped that paper like it burned me. My breath caught in my throat. No, that's not right," I whispered. I called Marcus 3 times, straight to voicemail. On the 4th call, he answered. "Ma, don't stress. It's just temporary paperwork. I'll fix it." But his voice was tight, rehearsed, and that was the night I realized my son might have lied to me. You still with me, baby? Because the hurt that comes after this one, Lord, it'll make you question everything you thought love meant. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, that letter still sitting on the nightstand like it was staring back at me. My mind kept running in circles, whispering, he wouldn't do that to me. Not my boy. I raised him better. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, too calm, too easy, like a man carrying a secret he didn't plan to share. By sunrise, I was sitting in the kitchen, robe still on, coffee gone cold. The silence in that house felt heavy. Almost mean. I kept replaying every word he'd said, trying to convince myself it was all a misunderstanding. You know that kind of hope that hurts more than the truth? That's the kind I had. I finally picked up the phone and called the bank listed on the letter. A woman answered, all polite and professional. "Ma'am, I just need to confirm your account number." "Account number?" I asked. "Sweetheart, I don't have an account with y'all. I think there's been a mistake." She paused. "This is Mrs. Evelyn Carter, correct? Co-owner of the property on Maple Street?" My hand went cold. "Co-owner?" I repeated, voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, ma'am. You and Mr. Marcus Carter are listed on the mortgage. First payment due next week." I couldn't breathe for a second. My throat closed up, and all I could say was, "Thank you." Then I hung up before she could hear me crying. I sat there, gripping the phone, my hand shaking so bad it slipped from my fingers. My chest felt tight. It wasn't just betrayal, it was shame. Shame that I'd let it happen. Shame that I hadn't listened to that small voice in my gut. Around noon, I drove to Marcus's house. I didn't even call first. When I pulled up, Tasha's car was in the driveway, but his wasn't. I sat there for a minute, trying to calm down. Then I walked up and knocked. Tasha opened the door, eyes rolling like I was a problem she didn't want to deal with. "Evelyn, what now? Where's Marcus?" I asked. "He's at work." "Then you tell him to call me," I said. "I need to talk about some papers he brought me." She crossed her arms. "You mean the house refinance? He said you agreed." Agreed to help, I said, my voice trembling. Not to be tied to his debt. Tasha shrugged like it was nothing. It's a family matter. You'll be fine. Something about her calmness made me dizzy. I felt the world tilt a little, had to grab the porch rail. She looked at me, no concern in her eyes, and said, "Maybe you should sit down, Evelyn. You look upset." I looked at her right back and said, "I'm more than upset, baby. I'm broken." Then I turned and walked away before she could say another word. When I got home, I sat on my couch and stared at my wedding photo on the wall. Harold smiling, arm around me. I whispered, "You'd know what to do." But he wasn't there, and all I had was silence. You understand what I'm saying? That's the kind of hurt that makes your whole house feel like a stranger's place. And as if that wasn't enough, the next week came with another blow, one that didn't just touch my bank account, but my heart. A week later, I was out front watering my little garden when Miss Pauline from next door called out, "Evelyn, honey, I saw the cutest pictures of your granddaughter online. That party looked like a dream." I froze mid-spray. The hose slipped from my hand, water soaking my shoes. "Party?" I asked, trying to sound casual, though my voice cracked. "Mm-hmm," she said, fanning herself. "Her birthday. Big pink cake, ponies, all the neighborhood kids. I thought you were there, sugar." I felt my throat tighten. "No," I said softly. "I didn't know anything about it." Her smile faded. "Oh, well, maybe it was last minute." She gave my arm a gentle pat before walking off, but her face said what she didn't want to. They left you out on purpose. When she was gone, I stood there dripping, shoes squishing, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. That was my grandbaby, my only one, and they hadn't even told me. I went inside, called Marcus, straight to voicemail. I called again. Nothing. I texted, "Happy birthday to my baby girl. Grandma loves you." The message showed delivered. It never turned blue. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the wall clock. Every tick felt louder than the one before. I whispered, "Lord, what did I do so wrong?" But the only answer was that clock taking away another piece of my peace. The next morning, I couldn't stand it anymore. I baked a small vanilla cake, the kind Kayla loves, and drove to their house. I told myself maybe it was all a misunderstanding. Maybe they'd call me crazy, but let me in anyway. When I got there, the yard was still a mess. Balloons deflated, glitter on the porch, streamers tangled in the fence. The sight of it broke me a little more. I knocked on the door, holding that cake tight against my chest like armor. Tasha opened the door, her expression freezing the second she saw me. "Evelyn, what are you doing here?" "Evelyn, what are you doing here?" "Evelyn, what are you doing here?" She stared, nodded. "Evelyn, what are you doing here?" "Evelyn, what are you doing here?" "I came to wish my granddaughter happy birthday," I said. My voice trembled, but I kept it steady enough. She sighed. "It was just a small thing, nothing big." I glanced behind her shoulder, pink decorations still hanging, wrapping paper on the floor. "Looks big enough to me," I said quietly. Then Marcus appeared behind her. His face went pale when he saw me. "Ma, you didn't have to come like this." "I called you," I said. "Twice." "I know," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "It was last minute. We just wanted to keep it simple." I nodded slowly. "Simple? You forgot to tell your mama her grandbaby's turning 6? Tasha's voice cut in sharp. "Evelyn, please, we're trying to set boundaries." That word again. Boundaries. Like a wall I wasn't meant to climb. I handed Marcus the cake. "Give her this. Tell her grandma loves her." My voice broke on the last word. Then I turned and walked off the porch before they could say another thing. My car door slammed too loud, my hands shaking on the wheel. Halfway home, tears came hard. I had to pull over. The sobs were so deep they hurt my ribs. You know that sound you make when your heart gives out, but your body keeps breathing? That was me, parked on the side of Maple Street, whispering, "Lord, hold me." That night, I couldn't even look at the empty seat across from me without crying. And baby, I thought that was rock bottom. But the truth waiting for me just a few weeks later, what I saw with my own eyes, made that birthday hurt look like a paper cut. 3 weeks passed, and I still hadn't heard a word. Not a text, not a, "How you doing, Ma?" Nothing. The silence was thick enough to choke on. I tried to keep myself busy, church, knitting, even rearranging my spice rack. But everything I did came back to the same thought. My boy is gone somewhere I can't reach him. One evening, I was sweeping the porch when the mailman handed me a thick envelope. It wasn't a bill this time. It was a notice. Bold red letters at the top. Payment overdue. Same house, same mortgage. My name still sitting right there beside his. I sat down hard in that rocking chair, my knees giving out. The broom fell from my hand. You know when life hits you so fast you can't even cry right away? That was me. I just stared at that paper like it was in another language. The next morning, I called Marcus, straight to voicemail. I called again and again till the phone went to that automated message. This mailbox is full. My voice trembled as I said, "Baby, please call your mama. It's important." Nothing. 3 days later, I got in my car and drove to his house. No plan, no warning, just that letter clutched tight in my hand. My heart was pounding like a drum. When I pulled up, the driveway was half empty, but the front door was wide open. At first, I thought maybe they were cleaning or packing, but then I saw men, 2 movers carrying boxes inside, not out, and when I looked closer, I froze. Those boxes had my handwriting on them. My handwriting. I walked up slow, confusion turning to dread. "Excuse me," I said to one of the movers. "Where'd you get these boxes?" He looked up, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Ma'am, these came from a storage unit. The family said they're moving in their own furniture today." "Family?" I repeated. My voice came out weak, like it didn't belong to me. That's when I saw it. My old coffee table, my floral curtains, my framed wedding photo sitting on a stack of boxes like it didn't mean a thing. Everything from my living room, right there in their house. I felt dizzy. My knees buckled, and I had to grab the porch rail to steady myself. "No," I whispered. "That can't be right." Then I heard Tasha's voice behind me. "Evelyn, what are you doing here?" I turned around slow. "What's all this? Why is my furniture here?" She crossed her arms, trying to look calm. "Marcus was supposed to tell you. We sold your place. It made more sense to consolidate everything." My ears rang. I thought I misheard. "You what?" Before she could answer, Marcus came out from the hallway, face pale, hands shaking. "Ma, listen, please, just let me explain." "Explain what?" I snapped, my voice breaking. "That you sold my house without telling me? That you took everything I own?" "Ma, I had no choice," he shouted, stepping closer. "We were drowning in debt. I did it for the family." I just stared at him. My son, my baby, standing there saying those words like they meant love. My chest tightened so bad, I thought my heart might give out right there on his porch. You understand what I'm saying? The kind of betrayal that don't just break your heart, it shakes your soul. I backed away from him, my voice trembling. "You did it for the family," I said. "Then tell me, Marcus, which family are you talking about? 'Cause it sure ain't mine anymore." He called after me, but I didn't turn around. I walked back to my car, tears burning my face. That was the day I stopped being his mama and started being a stranger. And baby, that wasn't even the worst of it. Because the week after that, when the truth about my home came in the mail, I realized just how deep his lie went. A few mornings later, I was sitting at the kitchen table with my Bible open, but not reading a word. My hands just rested there on the pages. The air felt thick, heavy like rain about to fall. I'd been waiting for a sign, for something to tell me what to do next. But all I had were bills in someone else's handwriting and silence from my only son. The doorbell rang, sharp enough to make me jump. I walked slow, wiping my hands on my robe. When I opened the door, a man stood there with a clipboard. "Mrs. Carter?" he asked. "Yes," I said, already uneasy. I'm from the county assessor's office. We're just confirming the transfer details of your property. My mouth went dry. Transfer? Yes, ma'am. According to our records, the property deed changed hands last month. You should have received notice. For a second, I didn't even understand the words. I just stared at him. You mean my house? He nodded, flipping through his papers. The house on Pine Street, yes. It's now listed under Marcus Carter. My knees gave out before my mind could catch up. I had to grab the doorframe. No, I whispered. That can't be. He looked startled. Ma'am, are you okay? I forced a breath, shaking my head. No, sir, I'm not. He apologized, mumbled something about mailing errors, and walked back to his truck. I closed the door and leaned against it, heart pounding like a drum in a storm. I turned around and looked at my living room, my curtains, my pictures, my husband's old armchair, and realized every single thing in that room no longer belonged to me. I sank onto the couch and whispered, Lord, please tell me I didn't raise him for this. My phone sat on the coffee table, silent. I picked it up and called Marcus again. Voicemail. I left a message, voice trembling. Marcus, this is your mama. I just got visited by a man saying this house is in your name now. I need you to call me back. Please, baby. I waited the whole day. No call. That night I sat in the dark. No TV, no light, just that same quiet that had followed me for weeks. You ever sit so still that the clock ticking feels like thunder? That's how it was. By midnight, I grabbed my keys. I didn't even put on shoes proper, just those old slippers. I got in the Buick, tears already blurring my eyes, and whispered, Lord, if there's truth left, show it to me tonight. I drove to his house, slow and shaking, headlights slicing through the dark. And baby, when I turned onto Maple Street, I saw something that took the last bit of breath out of me. The lights in his house were on bright. Through the window, I saw him and Tasha sitting at that same coffee table that used to be mine, laughing. Laughing like the world hadn't fallen apart. I parked right across the street, heart hammering so loud I could hear it. That's when I made up my mind. I was done waiting. I was going to knock on that door and make him look me in the eye. Tell me something, baby. If it were you, could you walk up to that door, or would you just sit there like I did, frozen, staring at the life that used to be yours? I don't even remember walking up that driveway. My body just moved on its own. Each step felt heavy, like I was dragging years of love behind me. My slippers scuffed against the concrete, and for a second, I thought about turning back. But something stronger than pride kept me going. A mother's need for truth will make her brave in ways you wouldn't believe. I knocked. Once, twice. The laughter inside stopped. Tasha opened the door, her smile slipping the moment she saw me. Evelyn, she said, her voice tight. It's late. I looked her dead in the eye. Where's my son? She hesitated, then called over her shoulder. Marcus, your mother's here. He came down the hallway, barefoot, wearing a t-shirt that looked like he'd been lounging. When he saw me, his face froze. Ma, he said quietly, what are you doing here? What am I doing here? I repeated, stepping past Tasha before she could stop me. Maybe you can tell me why a man from the county came to my house saying it ain't mine no more. Marcus's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Tasha crossed her arms. Evelyn, we can explain. I cut her off. No, he can explain, not you. Marcus rubbed his forehead, voice shaking. Ma, please, just sit down. I'm not sitting in a house full of my own furniture till you tell me the truth, I said. My voice cracked, but I didn't care. Did you sell my home? He looked down at the floor. That silence said everything I needed to hear. I felt my knees wobble, my heart thumping wild. Marcus, baby, tell me you didn't. I didn't mean for it to go this far, he whispered. We were drowning, Ma. Bills, loans, the mortgage. We needed help. So you took mine? I said, tears stinging my eyes. You sold my house and used my name without telling me? He finally looked up, eyes glossy, but no tears. It was just supposed to be temporary. I was going to buy it back once we got steady. Tasha chimed in, cold as ice. You have to understand, Evelyn. We needed to think about the family. I turned to her, voice shaking. I am the family. Or at least I was, till you decided I wasn't useful anymore. My hands were trembling so bad, I had to grit the edge of the counter to stay upright. You took everything Harold and I built, every brick, every dream. Marcus tried to step closer, but I held up my hand. Don't, I said. Don't touch me. He stopped. The whole room went quiet, except for the ticking of that old wall clock I recognized from my own kitchen. I stared at it through tears, whispering, "You even took my time." Then I turned around and walked out. You still with me, baby? Because that moment right there, it was the kind of pain that don't end when you walk away. It follows you home, sits in your chair, sleeps in your bed, and whispers, "You ain't got nothing left." But the Lord wasn't done with me yet. I didn't know it then, but what came next would shake the little bit of faith I still had left, and somehow start to rebuild it too. I drove home in silence that night. Didn't turn on the radio, didn't even wipe the tears off my face. The road lights blurred through the windshield like streaks of gold, and every one of them reminded me of something I'd lost. By the time I pulled into my driveway, no, his driveway now, the engine had gone quiet, but my heart hadn't. It was still thumping, wild and uneven. I sat there for a while, keys still in the ignition, hands gripping the wheel. You ever cry so hard you forget to breathe? That was me. I pressed my forehead against that steering wheel and whispered, "Lord, help me not hate my own child." When I finally got out, I didn't go inside right away. I stood by the porch steps, just looking at my house. The same house I'd scrubbed, painted, prayed in. The same house I thought I'd grow old in. And now it wasn't even mine. The moonlight hit the windows just right, and for a second I could almost see Harold's face, smiling at me through the glass, like he used to. My chest ached. Inside, everything felt different. My pictures looked wrong. My furniture, too clean, too still. I sat on the couch, his couch now, and the silence screamed louder than any fight. You understand what I'm saying? It's like your soul knows when something sacred's been stolen from it. I stayed up till morning. No sleep, just thinking. At one point, I opened my Bible, hoping maybe a verse would fall open that could fix me. But the page I landed on said, "Do not put your trust in princes, nor in the Son of Man, in whom there is no help." I laughed, bitter and hollow. "You got that right, Lord," I whispered. Later that week, a man from the bank came by. He had kind eyes, but business words. He said I had 60 days to move out. 60 days. I nodded while he talked, like I was listening, but I didn't hear a word. My body was there. My spirit wasn't. That night, Sister Louise from church stopped by with soup. She held my hand while I sat at the table and told her everything. Every lie, every paper, "It's just temporary." She didn't say much, just rubbed my back and said, "You've got a storm, baby, but storms don't last." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But the truth was I couldn't see past the thunder yet. Still, I promised myself one thing before she left. I said, if the Lord gives me one more ounce of strength, I'm going to use it to walk away with dignity. They can take my house, but they can't take my peace. And that's how the next chapter started. Not with anger, but with packing boxes and quiet prayers between the tears. Because sometimes surviving is the only revenge you got left. The first box I packed was full of pictures. Marcus as a baby, Harold in his Sunday suit, our old family cookouts where everybody laughed till their stomachs hurt. I sat on the floor holding those frames, my knees popping each time I bent, whispering, how did it come to this? The sound of the tape pulling across cardboard was the loneliest sound I ever heard. Every night after work, I packed a little more. I didn't tell nobody at church. Folks there still thought I was doing all right, and I didn't have the strength to keep explaining. You understand what I'm saying? Shame will make you quiet. I just told Sister Louise, pray for me, I'm going through something. She didn't ask what, just said she would. By the third week, the house looked naked, Curtains gone, shelves empty. Each empty spot whispered goodbye. I'd stop sometimes, close my eyes, and see Harold painting that same wall years ago. I could almost smell the paint, hear the old radio we used to play in the window. Then I'd open my eyes and remember that even those memories had been signed away. The movers came early one morning. 2 young men, polite but too cheerful for the day I was having. They asked where things should go. I just pointed and said, storage. My voice cracked on that word. They didn't notice. When they carried out Harold's chair, I turned my head so they wouldn't see me cry. That chair was his place. Every evening after supper, he'd sit there humming to himself. I'd sit on the couch and listen. After he passed, I kept that chair right there. Same spot, same cushion. Seeing strangers carry it out felt like losing him all over again. After they left, I sat on the floor, back against the bare wall, arms wrapped around my knees. The room echoed when I breathed. I whispered, Lord, I'm trying to forgive him, but I don't know how. The next day, Marcus came by. He stood in the doorway, didn't even step inside. His voice was soft, careful. Ma, I just came to check on you. I looked at him, really looked. His face was thinner, his eyes tired. For a second, I saw my little boy again. Then I remembered the papers, the lies, the loss. I'm fine, I said, standing up slow. You can go. He hesitated, like he wanted to say more. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. I nodded once, but it did. He dropped his head, then turned and walked away. No hug, no sorry, just the sound of his shoes on my porch. When the door closed, I whispered, I forgive you anyway. My voice cracked, but I said it, because sometimes forgiveness ain't for them. It's so you can breathe again. That night, I slept on the floor, wrapped in a quilt my mama made. I didn't dream of the house. I dreamed of freedom. Moving day came too soon. The sun hadn't even finished rising when that truck pulled up, engine rattling like it knew this was goodbye. I stood on the porch holding my purse and my Bible. That's it. Everything else was in boxes, taped up, ready to leave. The driver asked, You Miss Carter? I nodded, but it didn't even feel like my name anymore. The neighbors peeped through their curtains. You know how folks pretend they ain't watching when you lose everything? They look, then step back real quick, like shame's contagious. I smiled small and waved anyway. Pride'll make you do strange things just to stay standing. Inside, the walls looked bare. You could see the faded outlines where pictures used to hang. I walked room to room, touching each doorway one last time. Thank you, I whispered, like I was talking to the house itself. You held me through storms. You gave my boy a roof. I won't forget you. When I stepped outside, a breeze caught my cardigan, tugged it behind me like a memory trying to follow. I locked the door and placed the keys on the porch rail. Didn't even have to hand them to nobody. The house was already gone. I rode in the passenger seat of that truck, watching the world roll by like a movie I wasn't in anymore. Fields, stores, people living normal lives. I envied them. Not because they had more, but because they still belonged somewhere. The new apartment was small. 1 bedroom, 1 window, thin carpet that smelled like lemon cleaner. I stood in the middle of it, holding my box of pictures, not sure where to start. Then I heard Harold's voice in my head, plain as day. Start with the light, baby. So I opened the curtains. Sunlight spilled in, bright and forgiving. For the first time in weeks, I exhaled. That night, I made myself a simple dinner. Grits and eggs, same as when I first started out years ago. I sat on the floor, ate slow, let the quiet wrap around me. It wasn't the same kind of quiet I'd had before. This one didn't hurt. It just was. Before bed, I kneeled down beside that little borrowed mattress and prayed. Lord, don't let my heart turn hard. I lost a house, but please don't let me lose my faith. And wouldn't you know it, baby? When I said amen, something in me eased. I realized peace don't come from walls or deeds. It comes when you stop fighting what already left. Still, I didn't know the story wasn't over, because 2 months later, there came a knock on my new door, and when I opened it, standing there was a face I hadn't seen since everything fell apart. 2 months had gone by. I'd started to find a rhythm again. Small, simple things. Morning coffee by the window, volunteering at the church pantry, walking down to the market just to talk to folks. The days weren't happy exactly, but they were peaceful. Peace became enough. That afternoon, I was folding laundry when I heard a knock. Gentle, hesitant. The kind of knock that already knows it did something wrong. My hands froze mid-fold. I don't know why, but I just knew it was him. When I opened the door, there stood Marcus. He looked thinner, older, like the weight of his choices had been sitting on his shoulders. His eyes were red, but not from crying, more like from not sleeping. "Hey, Ma," he said softly. I stood there quiet a moment. "Hey, baby." He looked around the small apartment, took it all in, the plain curtains, the single chair, the boxes still stacked in the corner. "You doing all right?" he asked. "I'm breathing," I said. "That's something." He nodded, hands stuffed in his pockets. I came to apologize. Now listen, those words, they hit me strange. Not joy, not anger, just tiredness. I'd rehearsed this moment in my head 100 times, and none of the versions felt like this. I walked to the chair and sat down, motioning for him to do the same. "Go ahead," I said. He sat, elbows on his knees. "I messed up, Ma. I thought I was fixing things, but I made it worse. I was scared of losing everything, of looking like a failure. I didn't mean to take from you." I looked at him long. "But you did, baby. You took the roof over my head." He nodded, eyes watering now. "I know, and I can't fix it. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry." I sighed. The anger I thought would come never did. What came instead was something softer. "You know, Marcus, I used to pray God would punish you. Now I just pray he wakes you up, 'cause punishment won't change you, but grace might." He looked at me, tears finally spilling over. "You still love me after everything?" I smiled, small and sad. "That's what mamas do, but loving you don't mean I trust you." He nodded, head hanging low. "I understand." We sat there a while, quiet except for the sound of cars passing outside. I reached over, laid my hand on his. "I forgive you, baby, not for you, for me, 'cause I can't carry this pain no more." He cried then, real tears, deep and broken, and I cried too. Two lost souls in a small room, trying to rebuild something they both broke. When he left that day, he hugged me tight. First time in years. I stood in the doorway after he drove off, whispering, "Thank you, Lord. You didn't give me justice. You gave me peace." But I didn't know peace wasn't all he was about to give me, because the next day an envelope came in the mail that would change everything once again. The next morning, I found the envelope sitting in my mailbox. Plain white, no return address. For a second, I thought it was another bill, and my stomach knotted up tight. I carried it inside, laid it on the table, and just stared at it. Funny how paper can scare you more than a person sometimes. After a minute, I said a small prayer. "Lord, whatever this is, let it not break me," and tore it open. Inside was a single sheet. I recognized that handwriting right away. It was Marcus's. My hands shook as I unfolded it. "Ma," it said, "I sold the house to cover my mistakes, but I've been saving to make it right. Enclosed is a check from the sale of my truck. It's not much, but it's a start. I want you to have it. I know it can't replace what you lost. I'm just asking for a chance to do better." I sat there reading those words over and over. A small check slipped from the paper, fluttered onto the table. It wasn't a big amount, just enough to show he'd meant what he said. "Now listen, baby. Money don't fix heartbreak, but sometimes it tells you somebody finally understands the damage they caused." I pressed that letter to my chest and cried. Not the loud, broken kind this time. These were quiet tears, the kind that wash something clean inside you. Later that day, I went to church. I slipped that check between the pages of my Bible, right next to Psalm 147. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. I smiled at the words and said, "You sure do, Lord. You sure do." That evening, I sat by my window, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. My neighbor's kids were playing outside, laughing so loud it made me smile. For the first time in a long while, my heart didn't feel like it was cracking. It felt like it was mending. I made myself a cup of tea, strong and sweet. Then I looked around that tiny apartment, the plain curtains, the second-hand furniture, the smell of lemon cleaner, and realized something beautiful. It was mine, every inch of it. Mine, paid for, peaceful, quiet. I whispered, "They took the house, Lord, but you gave me a home." You understand what I'm saying? Sometimes God doesn't rebuild what you lost. He builds something smaller, softer, but safer. I sat there till the sky went dark, humming that old song Harold used to love. And for the first time since everything fell apart, I felt something like gratitude. But the story didn't end there, because the next Sunday morning, when I walked into church, I saw someone sitting in the front row, waiting for me, someone I never expected to see again. That Sunday morning felt different from the start. The air had that clean, quiet stillness after rain, and I could hear birds outside my window singing like the world was brand new. I put on my lilac church dress, the one with the pearl buttons Harold always liked, and tied a scarf around my shoulders. My knees hurt as I walked, but my spirit felt lighter. I hadn't felt that in months. When I reached the church steps, Sister Louise was standing there smiling big. "Child, you glowing today?" she said. I laughed and told her, "It's peace you're seeing, not glow." She hugged me tight. Well, it's about time peace came back around. Inside, the choir was already warming up, voices soft and sweet. I found my usual seat near the back, but as soon as I looked toward the front, my heart stopped. Marcus was there, sitting right in the first pew, Kayla beside him in her little yellow dress. She was swinging her legs, clutching a coloring book. For a moment, I couldn't move. My hands trembled around my purse. The usher leaned over and whispered, "That your son?" I nodded slowly. My throat was tight. He turned around, eyes searching the room until they landed on me. When our eyes met, he smiled, not that guilty kind, but small and humble, like a man trying to start over. I felt the sting of tears before I could even blink them back. During the service, I couldn't stop watching him. He sang when the choir sang, bowed his head when the pastor prayed, and when Pastor Evans said, "If there's someone you need to forgive, do it now," Marcus looked straight at me. After the service ended, folks were mingling and hugging like they do, but I stayed seated. My legs wouldn't move. Marcus came down the aisle, Kayla holding his hand. She ran up to me first. "Grandma," she said, wrapping her little arms around my waist. That hug. Lord, that hug melted every piece of anger still hiding in me. I held her tight, smelling her hair, that sweet mix of baby shampoo and crayons. Then Marcus stood in front of me, hat in his hands like a boy again. "Ma," he said softly, "we wanted to come home." I looked at him a long moment. "Home ain't a place, baby," I said. "It's a heart that still opens for you when you knock." He nodded, eyes wet, and for the first time in a long time, I saw truth sitting plain in his face. No excuses, no walls. We didn't say much after that. Didn't have to. He held my hand all the way to the car, and Kayla skipped beside us, humming. That night when I got home, I sat by my window again and whispered, "You did it, Lord. You brought my child back." But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. There was one last thing left for me to do before peace could fully stay. The following week, I couldn't stop thinking about everything that had happened. Forgiveness had loosened the weight in my chest, but something inside me still felt unfinished. You understand what I'm saying? Sometimes peace don't come till you speak your last truth out loud. So that Friday evening, I called Marcus. "Baby," I said, "if you've got a minute tomorrow, come by. Just you. There's something I need to say." He came right on time the next morning. No folder in his hands this time, just a paper bag from the bakery. "I brought you those muffins you like," he said. I smiled. "I see you remembering things again." We sat at my little kitchen table, sunlight spilling through the curtains. For a while, we just ate and talked about small things. The weather, the church picnic, how fast Kayla was growing. Then I set my cup down and said quietly, Marcus, I need to talk about the house. His shoulders stiffened. Ma? No, baby, listen. I laid my hand over his. You took something from me that can't be replaced, but holding on to that pain only keeps me stuck in the same moment you broke me. I can't live there no more. He nodded slowly, eyes down. I know. I want you to promise me one thing, I said. You keep your family safe. Don't ever put them in a place where money makes you forget love. You understand? Yes, ma'am, he said. I promise. I could see the shame and the gratitude both sitting heavy on his face. And Marcus, I added, I forgive you, but you gotta forgive yourself too. That's the only way we move forward. He swallowed hard, blinking fast. I'm trying, Ma. We sat there in silence for a bit, the kind that feels soft instead of sharp. Then I stood and walked to the little shelf where I kept that folded letter and the check he sent. I handed them back to him. This is yours. Use it to start over right. He shook his head. No, Ma, that's for you. I smiled, pushing it toward him. I already got what I needed. You showed up. He finally took it, tears rolling down his cheeks. I don't deserve you, he said. I looked at him, heart steady now. You're my child. That's the only reason I need. When he left, he kissed my forehead like he used to as a boy. I watched him walk down the hall, light from the window spilling over him like forgiveness itself. That night, I slept deeper than I had in years, not because everything was fixed, but because I'd finally let it be. And baby, when morning came, I woke up to a feeling I hadn't known in so long, quiet joy. That Sunday came with a soft wind and a sky clear as glass. I got up early, made my coffee, and sat by the window like I always do. The city was waking slow, dogs barking, a church bell ringing somewhere far off. For once, none of it hurt to hear. I just smiled and whispered, "Thank you, Lord, I made it through." A little later, there was another knock at my door. I opened it to see Tasha standing there. I'll be honest, baby, my stomach tightened. We hadn't spoken face to face since that day she slammed the door on me. She looked nervous, clutching her purse with both hands. "Morning, Evelyn," she said softly. "Morning," I replied. I stepped aside, motioning her in. "You can come in if you mean peace." She smiled, shy and small. "I do." We sat down at the table, the same spot where Marcus had been the day before. She took a deep breath, eyes glistening. "I wanted to say I'm sorry. I didn't see what he was doing to you till it was too late. I thought I was protecting our home, but I helped him hurt you instead. Now listen, I wasn't expecting that." The air in that little room shifted, like something heavy had just lifted off both our backs. I leaned forward and said, "Tasha, we all get blinded by love sometimes. You did what you thought was right." She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Kayla's been asking about you. She keeps that stuffed bunny you gave her on her bed every night." That made me smile, slow and warm. "She's a sweet child. Bring her by next Sunday. I'll make her pancakes." Tasha covered her face with her hands, crying harder now. "Thank you, Evelyn. You have every right to hate me." I reached over, touched her arm. "Hate don't heal nothing, baby. You can't build new peace on old pain." She looked up at me then, eyes wide, soft. "You really forgive us?" "I already did," I said, the minute I stopped waiting for an apology. We sat there talking for almost an hour. No yelling, no walls, just two women finally telling the truth. By the time she left, the light through the window had turned golden. Before she stepped out, she said, "You'll see us at church next week." After she was gone, I stood by the door, smiling to myself. For the first time in years, my family was finding its way back home. Not the house, but the heart of it. I turned toward my little kitchen, humming that same gospel tune. He'll make a way somehow. And baby, I realized he already had. That next Sunday felt like a new chapter written just for me. The church parking lot was full, kids running around in their pressed clothes, women fanning themselves on the steps. I walked slow, steady, my Bible tucked under my arm. The sun hit my face warm, and for once I didn't feel the weight of anything, just gratitude. Inside, I saw them, Marcus, Tasha, and little Kayla sitting together near the front. The sight made my heart swell. Marcus looked back, caught my eye, and smiled that quiet smile of a man still learning how to be whole again. Tasha waved softly. Kayla stood on the pew, grinning ear to ear, yelling, "Grandma!" till everyone turned and laughed. I walked up and sat beside them. No words needed. Marcus reached for my hand, and I didn't hesitate this time. His hand was warm, trembling just a little. I squeezed it, whispering, "We good, baby." During the sermon, Pastor Evans talked about restoration. He said sometimes God lets things fall apart so he can rebuild them stronger. What's taken from you might come back different, but it'll come back right. I felt that in my bones. When service ended, people hugged, children ran down the aisles, and the choir kept singing softly. Marcus leaned over and said, "Ma, can we take you out to lunch?" I smiled. "I'd like that. We went to that little diner off Main Street, same one we used to go to when Marcus was in high school." The waitress recognized me and said, "It's been a while, Miss Evelyn." I nodded. Too long. We talked for hours, laughed, even joked about the old days, how Marcus used to sneak cookies before dinner, how Harold once burned a whole pan of cornbread trying to help me cook. For a moment, it felt like time had folded back on itself, and we were sitting in some better year. After lunch, Marcus drove me home. He parked the car and didn't rush off like he used to. He walked me to the door, Kayla holding my hand the whole way. Before they left, he said, "Ma, I'm proud of you." I laughed. "Baby, it's supposed to be the other way around." He shook his head. "No, Ma, you taught me what real strength looks like." I hugged him tight, then bent down to kiss Kayla's forehead. She giggled and said, "Grandma, can I come stay over next weekend?" "You sure can," I told her. When they drove off, I stood on that porch a long while, watching until their car turned the corner. The sky had started to turn orange, and for the first time, the quiet felt holy. Not empty, not lonely, just peaceful. You understand what I'm saying? Sometimes God don't give you back what you lost. He gives you back what you needed. And that day, I had everything I needed right where it belonged. But before the story truly ended, I still had one last thing to do. A goodbye that wasn't about loss anymore, but letting go with grace. A few days later, I drove back to the old neighborhood. It wasn't to look for pain. No, maybe this time it was to close a circle. The road felt different now, familiar but gentle. When I turned onto Pine Street, the sun was slipping low, painting everything gold. The house still stood there, neat and quiet, new curtains in the windows. Somebody else's life living inside those walls now. I parked across the street, sat there for a minute with my hands on the steering wheel. My heart didn't race this time. I just breathed. "You did good by me," I whispered to that house. "You sheltered me. You held my family. You gave me stories. It's all right to let you go." I got out, walked up to the sidewalk, and laid a single white flower by the fence. A peace lily. My mama used to say those flowers mean new beginnings. The air smelled like rain, even though the sky was clear. I took it as a sign. You know what's funny? I thought I'd cry when I saw it again. But no tears came. Just warmth. Like God himself was saying, "See, you survived it." Before leaving, I touched the gate one last time. "Thank you," I said, "but my home ain't here no more." When I got back to my little apartment, the lights from the city shimmered through the window. I made myself a cup of tea and sat down by that same window seat, the one that had become my quiet corner. My pictures were lined up neatly on the wall. Harold smiling, Marcus as a baby, Kayla holding her bunny, every piece of my heart right there in front of me. I closed my eyes and prayed. "Lord, thank you for teaching me that love don't disappear when trust does. Thank you for showing me how to stand after the fall." The breeze coming through the open window felt soft against my face. I could hear church bells faint in the distance, people laughing down the street. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like a woman who'd lost everything. I felt like a woman who'd been rebuilt. You understand what I'm saying? Sometimes, life don't fix what's broken. It just hands you new pieces and waits to see what you build with them. I took a sip of my tea, looked toward the stars, and smiled. I forgive, I release, and I'm still standing. Then I laughed a little to myself and said, "And Lord, next time you hand out storms, make sure I got my umbrella ready." The wind rustled my curtains like a quiet amen. And that's how my story ends, baby. Not with bitterness, not with blame, but with peace. Real, earned, holy peace.